Welcome, everybody, to the Dr. Nick's Amazing Man Stuff YouTube channel. If you're watching now or in the future, we encourage you to hit the welcome doorbell by hitting that thumbs up on the video. And if you are not already, please consider subscribing. We do this live stream every single week. There's going to be more and more content coming out on this channel. It is new, it is growing, and very passionate. And this live stream specifically is called Doctor's Orders, where we pull back the curtains and you guys get to know everything that's going on with this company and the people behind it. And one of those people happens to be right next to me, and this is Mr. Nick, Dr. Nick. How you doing, Nick?
Man, I'm doing good. Little sleepy. That's okay. You know, last night with Command's Corner was a busy night, and what a blast that was, man. Like I don't even know how to say enough thank you to everybody on here, but Jill's downstairs busy away packing orders, and she probably thinks that like I'm on a little bit of a vacation right now compared to what she's doing. So she's probably very jealous. She's, for one, jealous to not be in front of a camera.
Right. But at the same time, I know she loves it. I know that's her spot. That's her passion, kind of like a therapy type situation. And yeah, thank you guys all that everyone came out. We have another one coming up. I think, what did we say? May 1st is the next scheduled one. So we got and a great comment right here from Chris, who has the products in his avatar. Look how cool that is. And he said, it was over before I realized what time it was. Yeah, man, we went 2.5 hours and it was just crazy, just lightning fast. And then Nick and I were texting until like 1:30, something, 1 a.m., something crazy like that too. It's hard to come down after those streams and settle a little bit, especially when there's just something special in the air. So
I very rarely end a text at nighttime with the words good night or good night. And finally, I was like, if I keep going, like we're both just going to keep going. Someone's got to say good night eventually here and catch up in the morning.
Yep. Yeah, no, I don't stop. I went through all the orders responded to YouTube comments. Man, it was amazing. Jill and Nick was generating the gift cards and Jill was contacting. It was a whole like working machine.
Oh, it was. It's like everyone got their gift cards within seconds of them winning. I think it was like a 60-second delay between someone winning and getting their cards out to them. So I mean, it was awesome. It was killer.
So fun. And we appreciate you guys being in here. We have this stream every week. We try to have different things that we do on this stream. We've had a professional barber in the studio and talked about his experience. We've had Jill in the studio. We've taken several mobile tours and showed you guys the entire 8,000-foot facility, whether it was the woodworking shop, whether it was their server room for the cybersecurity company or the consulting company. We've showed you the production line, and we want to do more and more with that. You and Nick, whatever you feel comfortable with sharing here, but there are some changes. And guys, today we're going to talk about the news experience, but there are some changes that are happening to the production facility, to Jill's office, to maybe a showroom. Anything you want to share about that?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to give teasers on all of that stuff because as soon as it's all done, we're going to be doing another walkthrough and tour down there. I can't wait to show you guys. Like it's transforming down there. We're stepping a couple of things up, and I mean, goodness, between the kitchen stuff that you guys already know is in the works, which right now we're basically waiting on the town water department to bring a new line to the building, and we got to do all this grease trap stuff to make sure we protect the septic system from all the butters and oils that we rinse out. So we're getting all that going, but we just got, oh God, I don't even know. It's like 400 something collective inches worth of stainless steel work surfaces. So all the white laminate top benches are all gone. We got some great photos of Jill like drop kicking the last one off the wall over the weekend, and she's got like the mallet in her hand going after him because she absolutely hated him. So we figured it was going to be good aggression release for her to be able to tear him down. But no, I lost my conference room. It's pretty much official. My conference room that had the big, long 14-foot, live edge table in it, that's going to have to come upstairs into what was going to be the game room down the hall from me here. And because that conference room now we're going to turn that into a dedicated shipping and receiving space. It's going to hold all of our stock and inventory. We're bringing in all this merch, all the shirts and hats and all that stuff, which, by the way, the PO was signed this morning for that. It starts later this week.
Let's go.
I think there's likely to be a post by this time next Tuesday. We will probably have an Instagram post up with me in the embroidery shop watching our logos get stitched into hats.
Wow.
It's moving quick now. So but we just look at all that space that's going to require. And, I'm all about streamlining things. And Dan, you mentioned it last night, right? Like most people would be like, okay, cool. Let's put it on a rack over there in that other room. But what I start doing is like, okay, so we got someone filling orders. They got to go over there to get shirts. They got to go over there to get oils. They got to go over here. I'm like, nope, broken process. Don't like it. So I was like, let's just consolidate it all into one room. Let's put up 12 big racks. Let's hold all the merch, make a nice long shipping and receiving table in there. And so Jill's moving out of the production room. Shipping and receiving is moving out of the production room. Inventory's moving out of the production room. We got 2 giant glass door fridges and freezers in there to be able to handle the curing processes for increased batches sizes for butter. I mean, it's happening down there, guys. So I mean, we're gonna walk through that thing. It's gonna look like a whole different place. It's
so cool.
Incredible. It looks like an actual commercial kitchen. Like it's cool.
That is awesome. I can't wait to see it. Guys, we will have lots of content on the Dr. Nick's Amazing Man Stuff Instagram coming up from these new changes. Pictures of Jill, like Nick mentioned, from the news experience, all sorts of stuff coming. If you guys do not follow them on Instagram, I highly encourage it. And again, thank you guys so much for being here. We do have you talked about teasing things. We kind of did have a little purposeful teasing last night that Jason caught. He said kind of like teasing the IPA. What do you think about that, Nick?
Oh man, it's coming. It's official. So we can officially let the cat out of the bag on that one. Labels get in for those today. We have one winner last night that's getting just a little sneak peek. So they're getting one hot off the presses. It's going to be like single label off the roll onto the bottle, and the rest is all happening later next week. But yeah, I think next week is going to be exciting because we have a seasonal release that's going to be, coming out on Tuesday next week. And then the week after that, man, everyone get ready for some IPA fun time because it's coming. It's back. We're ready to roll. It is steeping and smelling fantastic right now.
That's awesome. Now, I've never had one. I don't drink beer, but I believe it stands for Indian Pale Ale.
Yeah, India Pale Ale. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So that would be the name. And then Jill had mentioned the new and improved blend. Now, is this referring to when this was the first ever beard oil you guys ever did? Yep. When it came out, that was with the original carrier blend, and now it's changed. Is that what that was referring to?
Yep. So it's the same essential oil blend, so the same scent that you like. It's going to be identical except with our new carrier. The only difference is that we had some requests, and it was of my personal opinion as well, that we increase the strength of the hops just a teeny bit. So it's got a little more of that earthy hops kind of scent to it, but everything else is identical. So if you liked it before, you'll love it now. And it's smelling fantastic, and the funny, interesting little detour. We love detours here. We love rat holes. We talk about IPA, we talk about hops, India Pale Ale, and all that stuff. Does anybody out there know why hops was originally introduced into beer? Because beer used to be called Gruit, right? Yep. And it was just grain. It didn't have any hops in it. And hops was a little fun fact. Hops was a preservative. The only reason it was in there was a preservative.
And it was actually safer than drinking water. It was. The beer back then, when they started introducing hops, because of the filtration process and the boiling and what it went through, it was safer to drink beer than it was water. And oftentimes families would have much lower strength, but would have beer for their children because they weren't dying from the water.
Have you ever heard of Pilgrim beer? Or also known as acorn beer?
No, refresh me.
Okay, so get this. You're a history guy. You'll love this. So when the Pilgrims first came over here and they landed on Clark's Island out here in Plymouth, and then they eventually made their way to the shore in Plymouth, to Plymouth Rock. When they first got here, it was really funny because they had just come from Europe. The Black Plague was rampant.
Yep.
And drinking water was not safe there. Like you said, the only thing safe to drink was beer.
Yep.
The funny part about that was they didn't know exactly why beer was safe and water wasn't. So when they got here to the States, they just assumed that all the water was poisonous. And so they got here, they get to America. there's all these streams and rivers coming out through Plymouth, and they wouldn't touch a drop of it for fear of getting sick and getting the plague or getting dysentery.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening, they ran out of the beer they brought with them, and there was no fields here with grains they had access to. So they went around and started collecting acorns, crushing them up and using the proteins inside of the acorn kernels instead of wheat to be able to produce the mash they needed to get the sugars to ferment into beer. So they still wouldn't drink a drop of the water, still had no clue that it was as simple as boiling the water that was killing the, they didn't have any filtration, nothing else. They were boiling it. They were extracting sugars and fermenting it. They didn't know that the first step of that process was the only thing keeping them safe. And they could have literally boiled water, let it cool off and drank it, but they didn't. They stuck to what they knew. They made acorn beer.
Yeah. And dysentery was a problem back then. And a lot of you know this, if you played the Oregon Trail computer game.
Oh yeah. I am the Oregon Trail generation. So are you.
Oh yeah.
That was actually like this weird little chasm of a generation there, where they're calling it the Oregon Trail generation. Was people who were born and existed before technology, and then were young enough when technology got introduced that they felt like they grew up with it. Yeah, but we're technically the only generation that grew up partially without technology and then spent the rest of the time growing up with it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Oregon Trail. I remember, dying of dysentery was like the worst.
18 floppy disks later.
Oh, yeah. And I would just go hunting the whole time. They're like, you can only keep so much meat of the buffalo. And I'm like, I got 6 of them. It's all right.
That's right. I win.
Yeah, I win. That's how it works. Like, Dan,
you need this game's called I Win.
You need to keep playing. Like, no, I'm going hunting again, babe. Sorry. Our axle broke on the wagon. Not again. Yeah, that was fun. And when I would teach early U.S. history, we would play Oregon Trail, but I had to like get one of those. Oh man, what is it called? Like not a simulator, but something like that, where you can play like
an emulator.
Game. Emulator. Yeah, and we do like you could get like old Pokemon games. I found a site where my students could play the Oregon Trail, and these are kids that play Call of Duty and all these NBA 2K and all these things, and they're just madly into Oregon Trail. They'd finish their work a week later and be like, "Mr. Command, I got 10 minutes. My work's done. You can check it. Can I play Oregon Trail?" I'm like, "Heck yeah, you can."
Awesome.
Yeah, it was so fun, so fun. And we had a question. Somebody said, "Hey, talking about scents." Well, Kevin, there is a IPA scent that will be coming out in the near future. Nick, there is no date for that yet, correct?
No, but I'm thinking, based on what we have going on next week, I think the week after that's a pretty safe bet.
Okay.
It's definitely in February. So in the next couple of weeks, you guys will see that.
And then next week, stay tuned, but yes, there may be something new next week as well, involving a crowd favorite request of oud that we have teased at before. So stay tuned. There is a holiday coming up soon, and there is a scent that is in the works for that. Oh, it's in the beard? Okay. All right.
Oh, boy.
And Art and Jill's in the chat as always, a little bit busier today, but Art says, have you ever used like a rose essential oil?
Yeah, so we have played with rose, and there was one. It was actually one of the oils we did for guar. Used rose essential oil in it, along with black pepper, if I'm not mistaken, and that was fantastic. So we are definitely wanting to bring that one back. That was one of my favorites. It was called Blothar's Berserker Sauce.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And yeah, and we got to talk about guar last night, so that makes for a good night.
Oh, it was great. And it was so funny too. I love your disclaimer about the Carb Slayer comment. You're like, in Sharpie, there's none of this. No self-mutilation.
I would say about half of the stream probably got the reference and knew what you were talking about.
But you had to make sure for the other half.
Yeah. There's definitely another half that has no concept of who Slayer is or what carving Slayer into your wrist means. Yeah. But I did see a couple heads turn like, wait, Nick knows about, and it's like, hey, you guys need to come to these streams, get to know Nick.
And that's it, man. That's it. That was a bunch of people that didn't know. They didn't know.
Right. So, man, I appreciate it. And shout out to everybody coming in. We saw OG Rob, OG Fitzroy. We got Jason, Paul, Mark, Art, G Squared, Chris, Scott. Oh, man, Kevin, another Chris. it just keeps going and going. And Vado and Whiskers and Whiskey, Robert, Leo, Donald. Oh my goodness, so many amazing people, man. And
All our buddies,
Beardo.
man.
Ellie's in here, even the ladies. Mike, of course, Jerry Mack, Guns and Beard, Brad, the Miller family, Car Bomb. Whew, if anybody else I missed, I apologize. Get those comments out there and let's see where everybody's going. So I do have a comment that I would like to highlight, and this is from Chris B. So Chris B says, the news story was amazing. It was a great look into just how you guys are. So I want to start off. There's probably not going to be any audio to this, and that's okay. But I want to show something real quick here, and then we'll kind of get into this. And guys and girls out there, again, if you don't, please check out their Instagram. There's a lot of amazing content that a lot of time and thought goes into in planning, and we really think that it shows an even different side of the company. So for this news, we had some teaser things that were going up and kind of getting ready for this. And then there were some actual ones. So to give you guys a little preview, this is at the newsroom where they brought the products to the newsroom and started delivering them to the different anchors who are, for the most part, they're all growing their beard out right now. Right, Nick?
Yeah. It's funny. So this guy that we're looking at right there, his name is Jacob, and he went on vacation. And I guess they've never been allowed to have beards in the news station, right? And I guess he came back from vacation, he had a beard, and he went on the air. No one said anything. So Liam and a couple other guys, or Liam, the anchor that came out on site to interview us, they were like, we're just going to do the same thing. So they kind of waited over the course of a long weekend or something and came back in with some scruff. And they asked if it was okay. And editors and producers were like, yeah, it's fine. It's 2022. You can have some beard. And so now, so that guy right there, Liam, so Jacob basically started a trend and made it kind of okay in the newsroom at WBZ CBS Boston for them to have some beard.
So dang cool. And then here's one more little glimpse of some shots that they have from this day. And Nick's going to tell you guys all about it. I want this to just be kind of story time from start to finish, the experience, the takeaways, and just how it went. And we'll be able to talk about the radio experience in a bit here. But this was, I'll put it down at the bottom, you guys. This was on WBZ TV Boston, which is a nationally syndicated CBS station. And Nick, tell us, what was this like? And we've gone over the setup briefly before, but I think it is important and great to show some love and acknowledgement here. How did this come about? What was the day like, and what was the experience afterwards? Take it away, man.
So, first of all, the craziest part I would have to say is the way they shoot news stories. So they take 45 minutes of video, right? And out of that 45 minutes or so of video, you see the 45 seconds that you saw on TV. And there's a couple of pieces there that were just so interesting to do. But yeah, let me lead everybody into how this happened. So one of Dan's subscribers who started watching our channel and started checking out, who we are and what we do, he watches WBZ Boston, and he follows on Twitter that guy that we saw getting the delivery. There he is right there, Dan B, the man. And so Dan B reached out to Jacob, who's a meteorologist, and said, hey, you have a beard. What do you use? Just so there's a great company in your backyard that's doing stuff really differently. You should check them out. So Jacob reached out to our Instagram. We started talking back and forth a little bit, and one thing led to another. And he's like, man, this sounds like a really cool story, what you guys have going on down there. I think it's something we'd like to cover. So next thing you know, I get another email from one of their news desk anchors, Liam, and he's running a segment called It Happens Here, where they go around each city in Massachusetts and they find a local business that's doing something new and cool or successful or different. And they showcase who they are and how they do it. And he asked if we'd like to do that segment. We, of course, said yes. And it happened really fast. We basically gave it the thumbs up. The next week on Friday, they were in our office at 9 a.m. with a cameraman, a news anchor, and we started running through the whole process. And the first piece I'll hit about that process that was really funny is that Instagram reel that Dan showed where it's kind of like that video of me kind of zooming out. I've never stood that still staring at something with no one saying anything. I don't think ever before in my life. It was like, it's like 3 minutes of like, okay, stand there for a second. Let me get a quick clip. And it was like a clip. And then the camera guy was like, okay, let me get one. And he's zooming out and everyone's just dead silent in the room. And I'm like, dear God, I feel like I can hear my own feet shaking right now. Like it was like planted dead still, trying not to mess up these zoom out shots in these videos. It was, Jill had the nice wireless mic, clipped onto her back, and it was, pretty well hidden. I had a full-size microphone strapped to my back on my belt, which I wasn't wearing, so just on my pants. Good thing I was wearing tight ones that day that fit, and that thing was heavy, and it just had a cable coming off of that and like up the shirt for the mic situation. But it was really cool seeing like the behind the scenes. I've never been on the news before. I've done lots of public speaking in front of cameras, and I've done lots of stuff like this in front of cameras. But I've never been in front of a film crew before with someone kind of directing what you're doing and kind of doing the whole producer director side of things, while you're doing what you're doing, So it was a surreal experience for sure, but it was very, very cool. And they were super nice. They really did take the time. We didn't feel like someone was like, Kool-Aid manning their way through the wall into our office and pushing you around to do a couple of things, then walking out before you knew what happened. I mean, they really did take their time. They let, my friend Chris was there, and he was shooting all the behind the scenes shots. And they took time to sit down and take photos with us in front of our logos, and he sampled the products and tried them, and he liked them, and it was very genuine and really, really cool group of people. It actually was really refreshing to see that that's kind of what happens behind the scenes.
That's awesome. Now, kind of two things that I would love for you to touch on. One, you had a cool experience afterwards with one of the videography guys, if you would be able to touch on that.
Yeah.
And then two, with that process, a lot of people don't realize how much filming goes into it and how little makes it on air. Can you give any thoughts, any surprises, any disappointments with the idea of what made it on air as compared to what's filmed? Because I've been a part of a few different things, and I was like, my best stuff didn't actually make it on. And so it's kind of a bummer, but understandable at the same time.
Yeah, it's really funny because you go through that because there's some spots where you're like, oh, I nailed that. Like, that's going to be gold, and they don't use it. And then there's other ones where you're like, oh God, I don't really like the way I answered that. Like, I did one retake, like I answered something and I was like, ooh, let me answer that again. Actually, ask me that again. And so he asked me again and I answered again. So, none of those made it on either, but it's funny. It's all the stuff right in the middle that makes it, which is really interesting, right? The stuff that you're like super stoked that you think you did really, really well, that's going to come out, typically doesn't get used. And the stuff that you messed up, they obviously don't use that, but it's the stuff that you almost forget even saying that is the stuff that makes it on there. So when you watch it, it's really kind of interesting because you've kind of had this pre-formulated idea in your mind about what it's gonna sound like leading up to it. For example, the night before, Jill's like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to sleep. I'm nervous. Like, how are you doing? All this. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And she's like, what the hell? What do you mean you're fine? And then the night before it airs is when I felt that, right? Is when all of a sudden I was like, oh man, now I'm nervous. Like, how are they going to edit it? Like, what pieces are going to make it on? Like, how are we going to be represented? Like, what's his narration going to be? And that sort of thing. So I get nervous the day before air. Jill gets nervous the day before shooting. So we have, both bases covered at least. And one of us is usually okay while the other isn't, which is great. We're a pretty good team like that. But man, that I forget what you said the camera guy. So speaking of things that just put your mind at ease and make you feel good about the whole thing, right? The camera guy, his name was Noah. And he is a freelanced, he owns his own production company. He's a freelance videographer for CBS. And he has been for like 15 years. And so when everyone was kind of wrapping up, Liam, the anchor, he took off. We sent him off with a little care package, and he took off, but he had other stuff to go do. And we were sitting there and just talking back and forth with Noah. And I kind of mentioned some of the stuff we do on YouTube and some of the content that we create. And it jumped immediately into him sharing his tips and tricks about how he shoots video and then uses that collateral across multiple platforms, and some workflow tips about how to make that efficient and to not, repost stuff from TikTok onto Instagram and deal with the watermark penalties, and random little tips and tricks that this guy, gets paid $10,000 a session to be able to do for people. And he was just opening the curtains. He's like, well, you got this Sony A7S III. He's like, you got that, you got this, like, do this, bring it into this software, run this for transcription and narration over it, export that. You can use that across TikTok and Instagram, and here's the program to use for it. And just gave us an insane amount of information. Like, I feel like if I took a 6-month to year-long course in social media video production, I might not even have walked away with the pocket full of tools I had by the time this guy left. I mean, it was incredible. And, we brought him down to the wood shop, and he's checking everything out. And he's like, oh, have you been to the Boston Design Center and worked with these interior designers for the custom wood products? And, he was just one of those guys who saw a small team of people that are doing cool stuff and doing it the right way. And he just wanted to help. And I think he hung out for about an hour and 15 minutes after the video was done being shot, just helping, just giving us advice, and then wrapped the whole thing up with, if you don't feel like buying any of the equipment that we just talked about or anything else that you might need to shoot some of this, like, just here's my card, shoot me a text. You can swing up to Situate and just come borrow it. That's fine. He's like, I'll just let me know what you need. You can come borrow it. I'll let you know when to have it back, and just, use what you need. Wireless mics, lights, tripods, whatever you need to borrow. So, I mean, on top of just being an open book and full of knowledge and experience, he even offered to help us out on the equipment side of things and everything else. I mean, it was just, talk about just a cool experience there.
That's amazing. There really are good people out there.
There are.
We will never get political on any of these streams whatsoever, but it is nice to see the news highlighting local, highlighting positive, uplifting stories. We all know across the spectrum of all news broadcasts that controversy sells, that sadness, that fear, all these things sell. And that's what a lot of people feel like. And they're making a point to go and do positive stories, go and highlight and support local, open up opportunities. And here's one of the craziest things with all of this. And we're going to talk about another opportunity that came about likely because of this in a second here. But leading up to this and leading up to all these other ways that this information has been getting out about Dr. Nick's amazing man stuff, it's kind of been an explosive 6 months for you guys, with month after month just toppling new records, even in January, which is a slow month for most companies. Nick, along that process, and you got connected with the news, got connected with the radio, got connected with stories and some future nonprofit writing work and stuff. How much have you guys spent on ads? Because Facebook ads, Google ads, Instagram ads, all of these things, YouTube ads it's kind of the blueprint on how you make it and how you grow and how you get big. So how much have you guys, just to be transparent, spent on ads in the last 6 months?
Well, it's one of those things where you got to go through and you look at Facebook, you look at Instagram, you look at Google and ad delivery, YouTube ads, and you kind of got to look across all those different budgets. And I'm just kidding. It's been zero. It's been $0 in ad spend. I mean, spoiler alert. We've experienced, in full transparency, I said it on the radio, I'll say it here, since the beginning of Q3 2022 in July, we have basically experienced about 40% growth every month. And what's crazy about that, if you look and really kind of peel back what those numbers mean, right, is that typically with ads, it's this delicate balance. Like, the beard market is really saturated with ads, right? The space that people are trying to grab for certain keywords is very saturated. Although it's not a super saturated industry, the search space is very competitive. That's how most people acquire new customers. And so some people will say that your average order value compared to your cost of customer acquisition, right? The COA, or cost of acquisition, yeah, is those two numbers, AOV and COA, kind of go together to figure out how you onboard customers. And people have to do all kinds of tricks, right, to get that average order value up to cover the cost of onboarding new customers. And that's typically how you grow. And Dan and I made the very intentional decision on the marketing side of the house here that we really wanted to do this organically. And one of the reasons we wanted to do that was because we didn't want one-off customers, because we want to build lasting relationships with people, which is what we clearly have done here. I mean, you guys are amazing, and we wouldn't be here without you. And it's that, right? The customer service, the community interaction, and just being a real person interacting with real people. Imagine that, lo and behold, is far more valuable than paying for onboarding customers.
Yep.
And it's insane.
Yeah, and we'll probably do a dedicated stream to this concept, because we'd like to talk about business. We like to give insight, food for thought, and just stuff that we're passionate about and have experience and insight on. And one concept to keep in mind when the marketing is done by word of mouth, when the marketing is done by consumers, when it's done in this genuine way, that cost savings is carried on to you guys.
Yeah.
Right? And to make that very clear, people would say, how is it possible that you do $15 international shipping? How is it possible that you have a flat rate of $5 in the US and free shipping at 50, not 75, not 100, but 50? How is it possible that you have satisfaction guarantee on first orders where you'll make it right no matter what the case? Those things are all expensive, and those things all cut into profits every single time. Well, when you're not paying 5 digits of ads every month, there's a great benefit to the consumer in that situation.
Oh, it's huge. I would say it's a bigger benefit to you guys than it is to us. And that's a super important point, because, we even got asked yesterday by Bloomberg, right? They said, why aren't you on Shark Tank? And I said, well, the first thing Shark Tank would say to us, I can hear Mr. Wonderful saying it right now, is you guys aren't a manufacturing company. You're a grooming company. Why don't you go hire a manufacturing company that's good at what they do and can scale, and you focus on what you're good at, and they focus on what they're good at. And then again, they even asked, how are you able to do the things you're doing from a price point perspective and bringing these high-end ingredients in while still maintaining margins that'll sustain a business, right? And the answer to that is what you just said. We don't spend money on a bunch of things that other companies spend money on. So, the things that make other companies need to have an all-in cost of like something ridiculous, like 80 cents for their products when they ship, is because for that $20 or $40 order, they might have spent $40 to $60 in ads on that order. Right.
Yep.
And so their margins are very, very squeezed. They're super tight. And we work so closely with our manufacturer partners that make our materials. And we work with our suppliers, both from packaging to shipping supplies to the raw ingredients that go in, or all the way from carrier oils to essential oils. We know all of those vendors. Like, we've talked to all of them. We've worked on rates. We've worked on things and said, hey, this is where we are now, but this is where we're going. We can't get there if you bill us like we're still here. We need you to bill us like we're here, and we'll get there. We promise. And, getting buy-in, I think, from suppliers makes it so we can actually still do what we do with the ingredients that we use and maintain a sustainable business, because we spend money on stuff that and we were just talking, like, the only ads that we're really looking on taking out are things to protect our name, right? So, you might see us on Google if you Google us and an ad pops up for Dr. Nick's, and that's like if you search for us directly. And the idea there is just to make it so other people can't grab our audience when someone's looking for us directly, right?
Yeah.
Those are the types of ads that we're looking at doing, which is kind of like awareness and brand protection, sort of like more like a shield than it is like a net,
And yeah, to put that into layman's terms or normal speak, essentially there is a dirty tactic of business out there. At least it's all opinion, of course, but I consider it dirty. There are companies that will pay to try and win search results of other companies. So for example, let's say Beard Brand and Honest Amish get the two most searched traffic in the United States. there are companies that will pay for ads where when people type in beard brand, that their company will show up with that specific search. Not beard oil, not beard products, not best beard oil. A different company will pay to try and show up ahead of Honest Amish when someone searches Honest Amish. And it's a really, really dirty tactic, but it's business. We will never name names, but there are about 2 companies that specialize in this, and it's really their tactic. And so the only type of ads that Dr. Nick's has planned is ones to win when people search Dr. Nick's. Dr. Nick's beard butter, Dr. Nick's beard oil. That is it. It's just to stop the vultures that are trying to drink out somebody else's Kool-Aid.
Yep, that's it. Keeping people from drinking our milk.
Yep. And Mike, great question. So obviously I work very closely with Dr. Nick's, you guys, and my role is officially titled the Master of Marketing. And I help in many different capacities, just like I do for so many different people. But with Dr. Nick's, I help with getting the word out about this company. I would say that's the most basic way of putting it is there's amazing products, amazing ownership, amazing future, and just trying to do it in the best, most moral, awesome way possible to get it out there, whether it's live streams, whether it's Instagram, whether there's so many, we wouldn't even be able to scratch the surface of the conversations that happen on a daily basis, but that is the exact title.
It is. And I'll give a little more, a little bit of backstory there too, is to answer that question. You know, we had a budget a while back to be able to have someone handle, social media and really help us get in on the Instagram side of things and get some traction on YouTube and things like that. And there's all these big faceless companies that'll do that stuff for you. And after looking at the numbers and looking at what they do, it just made so much more sense to have someone who's already in this space, who knows this world and who lives it every day and could actually act on our behalf, right? And we don't have to worry about it being an hourly person at a company who's never met us, that's farming things out to other agencies and has no awareness of our brand or who we are and what we're trying to do. And we'd have to force feed all of that into them. It made so much more sense after stopping for a minute and really thinking about it. Like, wait a minute, why aren't we working with a friend that someone is already ingrained in this world who knows it? Why reinvent the wheel, right? And so keeping things small, I would much rather that budget go to Dan than some big faceless company I don't know that's not going to do us justice. And it's just, again, about community interaction. That the community we have now was because of community interaction that led to that, right? So it was just a natural progression. It just made too much sense.
Yeah. It's been amazing. And thank you guys for all the kind words. Thank you, Mike, man. I appreciate that a lot. And welcome to everybody coming in. I saw Travis. Shout out to Garrett. Garrett, hope you're doing well, man. I tried to find you on Instagram, send you a message because I hadn't heard from you in a bit just to check for everything was all right. I actually sent Melissa a message. So good to know that all is well. I know you're just working crazy hours and we appreciate you. We definitely appreciate you being here. So that is amazing.
Hour shifts with a 2 a.m. start time.
He's been killing it, man. It's all for his family. He's doing everything he can for his family. Yep. And Leo says your business sense of communication just heap value on your company and live streams. And thanks, Leo, on my side of things, from day one, all I've wanted to do to help this company is literally get them out there. I told Nick from day one, and I don't know if I made this up or heard it from somewhere, but I said long form transparency is our key. It needs to be transparent and it needs to be long form, not sound bites, not little clips, it needs to be putting this company out there and unveiling everything and have no reservations with that. And I really do believe that is the biggest task with marketing, and it's going really well.
Dude, you actually just nailed it. I mean, you look at what most companies need, right? Like if you're someone who white labels stuff that comes from overseas, you're bringing in boxes of products with labels and you got to get it out there. That marketing strategy for that company is going to be very, very different from a company like ours, right? And so the agencies I talk to, I think, are used to gearing towards those drop ship or white label type companies. Whereas, when I first started talking to you and I kind of relayed a lot of the stuff that these big agencies were telling me that I needed to do, you were just like, we're shaking your head the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is this guy wrong, or is he just seeing something that I'm not? And so I listened and I studied and really tried to absorb. And your message constantly back in July last year was, you don't need to do any of this lipstick on the pig stuff.
None.
Like, you don't need to do any of these whiz bang laser light show things that all these companies are doing. Like, you guys are the real deal, and all we got to do is get people to see that and to show what is going on here to people. And it's not creating a narrative and then spinning it and then putting it out there. It's literally capturing just the essence of what we do and putting it out there with no salad dressing on it. You know, it's just, it is what it is.
Yeah. And I've learned that because I have worked with so many companies in so many situations over the years, and I've seen them get burned. I've known literally multiple companies. I could tell you 3 right now that have spent more than $10,000 in a quarter, meaning a 3-month period. They spent more than $10,000 on ad agencies just to go backwards, not to help, not to stay even, to go backwards. Sometimes these ad agencies has even cannibalized their domain, and it's been horrible. And I see all these tactics, and I see companies using things like, ooh, I see the tactic that works between McDonald's and Burger King. Let's use that. It's just so different in this community. It's so different in this small growing industry. You don't need any of that stuff. You just need to, as Steve hit, build relationship with customers, put it out there, show how genuine this company is. And guys, the process has been really nice and authentic. My first interactions with Dr. Nix was a consultation, and then it was a trying their products, and it was a review. And then later, a year later, maybe, it was an affiliate. Yeah. And then it was marketing, and then it was this stuff. Like, it's been every step along the way. And I was singing their praises before I made a penny. I was singing their praises before I was an affiliate. Any of this stuff. It's just, it's how the best relationships work. It's just all about the process.
It really was. It was like hey, want to do a review, and hey, glad you liked it. And then, you know, it was just one of those natural things. Like, we started talking more, we became friends, and, you know, that then turned into everything else that you see here. You know, it really was. It wasn't ever one of those crazy giant leaps, you know.
Yeah.
Each piece kind of fit really nicely into the next.
Yep. And Leo, I don't know if you're in my head or listening to my conversations I had yesterday, but my lens is exactly the same. I'm always looking through the lens of the consumer. I'm always looking through the lens of what is good, what feels right, what comes across in the best way, right? I was a coach. I was a teacher. What is most important? It's not your knowledge. It's your communication. You could be the smartest person in the world, but if you can't communicate, it doesn't matter. Michael Jordan is the best basketball player of all time. He might be the worst owner in basketball history. He might be an even worse coach if he tried coaching. If you have the knowledge and info, if you can't communicate it and execute it, it doesn't matter. And this would be an exact situation of that, is the understanding. I agree entirely with you, Leo. I actually know the situation you're talking about there. I actually reached out to the company and gave them some advice and some guidance. But there are companies that have great people. They have great products. They have great intentions, but they miss because of marketing. They miss because of their intuition being off. There's a thing called ego. I'm as guilty as anybody in the world, but that ego can pull at strings and make you do things that aren't exactly lining up with your goals. One of those things can be content. And, oh man, I'm getting a ton of hits on shorts. Woo, baby, let's do this. Well, when that short goes by and somebody watches it, a 30-year-old woman who's getting entertained at the end of the day, and she's just scrolling through reels, if she can't tell you what company that was, how valuable was it? Right. You know, it's like watching a Super Bowl ad and not knowing what it was about. Like, that was funny, that was great, but what is it about? If you leave this live stream, you're going to know who Dr. Nix is. You're going to know about this company, the owners, the people. So, man, Leo, that strikes me to the core with how much that hits. And then I'm going to set you up here on the same note. So we are saying how important long-form transparency is. We are saying that my task of marketing is simply getting this out there. Now, I would advise, and Nick would never do this, but I would never, ever I would never encourage bashing other companies. I would never encourage bringing people down, naming names or anything like that. But we don't need to. But there is a consequence with being very transparent. There is a consequence with having success. And I don't know if it's a negative. I don't know if it's a positive. It's just a consequence. And that is other people are going to notice and other people are going to start to emulate, copy, whatever you want to call it. They're going to do that. Whether it is the style of marketing and saying, ooh, a live stream is super valuable to pull back the curtains on a company and show this. Whether it is pricing, whether it is in the ingredient list, whether it is a method of marketing on Instagram, that is going to happen. It is a consequence of success. What is your honest experience and thoughts when you start to see people emulating in more and more and more egregiously like obvious?
Yeah. So obviously there's, so Donald, it's super good point, right? And I did think about this before we started doing these. And on the first couple of times, I actually kind of thought about our topics and what we were doing to make sure that that wouldn't be a problem. Lo and behold, it always happens, right? And I'll say one thing before I go into the rest is that, yes, we already have had that happen, right? Based on these streams, we already have some copycats out there, and that's fine because I fall back on something I've said it and I've said it before, and I'll say it a million times, is that I feel like there's a piece of the concept where people say that, imitation's the highest form of flattery, and those sorts of things, right? Those cliche kind of phrases. But I think it's actually much simpler than that. People want to lead, right? You want to be the leader of an industry. You want to lead a market. You want to lead a trend, whatever it might be. The definition of leading means that you have someone following you, right? You can't lead if no one's behind you, right? And so most people start off and they want to do something different and they want to be disruptive and they want to lead the pack. And then they get upset when people start following them and they start doing the same thing. I take that as a compliment, and I also take it as validation, right? That I'm doing something that's striking a nerve, and we like that. There's something in a book that I read a while back called, the book's titled 13 Things That Strong-Minded People Don't Do. And one of them is feeling bad for yourself. And they say it's a waste of time, right? I think that focusing on, oh God, someone else is doing what we're doing. Are they going to take this? Are they going to do that? Are they going to do these things? That falls in the same category for me as feeling bad for yourself, because what you're doing there is you're letting what you subconsciously probably knew was a desired result impact your ability to move forward. And that's not something I'm going to spend time doing. I'm going to focus on what we set out to do, and each decision we make, we're going to follow through on it. And if other people think that was a good enough idea that they need to jump on the bandwagon and do it as well, if anything, I take that as validation that we're doing the right thing. And it's going to happen. And it has happened. It's already happening right now.
Yep, absolutely. And
one more point on that, actually.
Yeah, hit him.
One of the other reasons I'm not worried about that is because of you guys. If I'm really being transparent here, is that you guys are smart. You guys are smart guys.
Yep.
You smart people, smart women out there too. And, you guys are smart and you know what you like and why you like it. Right. And I'm not concerned that if someone else does what we do, that all of a sudden you're going to decide you don't like us and you like the new guy that's doing the same thing. I think you like us for a varying number of reasons. Right. And it's a spectrum, just like Leo has said, just like Donald has said, just like Chris said. There's a number of things that go in to make us who we are, and there's a number of things about who we are that you guys enjoy. And just because you duplicate a product, a process, a live stream, or something else, I don't think threatens us in any way that any of you are going to be deterred from us because of that. So a big testament, I think, to my peace of mind with this whole situation is that I know who our customers are and I know why you're here. And I'm not worried about you leaving if somebody else does something that we're doing.
Absolutely. And I've always said the same kind of thing. I think it's insulting to not assume that viewers, that consumers, that fans, that friends are not very intelligent. Yeah. And people will say things like, hey, you need to really paint this picture. You need to do this. And I've always fallen back on people are smart. People are absolutely smart, and you can never underestimate that, and always respect the intelligence of people watching. They figure it out. Yep.
Yeah, you need to believe in it and trust it. I don't know where that concept came from, that like when someone turns into a customer that they're not going to be an equal to you or a peer if you were sitting next to them at a bar or a restaurant. And I think, when people see names on orders and they see them in emails and they're asking questions, and I think they get this weird mentality that for some reason they're up here handling all this stuff for these people that they're dealing with. I don't, right? Like you guys, we're all cut from the same cloth. Like we're all here for the same reasons. We all like the same stuff. A lot of us are, we are very much the same people. Like, I would sit there and have a beer with any one of you guys, at the restaurant right down the street here next to our office. And I'd love it. I don't see any reason why anyone would ever feel any differently, but it's pretty apparent that people do think that.
Yeah. Yep. No doubt. It's very, very real. And again, that Donald, great question, man. Thank you for asking in a respectful way and just acknowledging, right? It is what it is. It's going to happen, but it has no impact. If you dwell on that stuff, it's the same concept of people talking negatively about you. That's another consequence of relative success. People are going to have different opinions about you stemming from many different reasons. You can either focus on that, defend that, dwell on that, and waste your time during the day. Or like Mark said, you can work on your goals for tomorrow and start moving on. And
that's it.
Literally the choice is yours in that one. So there's definitely much bigger and more amazing things to think about than anything along those lines.
Oh yeah. And if you're always chasing, you're never going to lead, right? And that's another important concept. If you're always following someone else, that by definition, you're following someone else, right?
Yep.
So until you break off and carve your own path, you're gonna be just following in someone else's footsteps.
Absolutely. All right, Whiskers and Whiskey, take care. So transitioning, you had the news experience, amazing feedback, so cool, especially being local. Got some content up on Instagram, more to come in the future. You received shortly after that a pretty cool phone call that kind of surprised you and caught you off guard. And I want you to be a little bit vulnerable on this one and share that initial phone call and some of the questions you asked, and then just take it from there. They're loving people. Thank you, Leo, and thank you to anybody who was sharing the positive feedback about the behind the scenes experience. Share what happened from the phone call to the radio experience to any thoughts. And this is specifically, guys, with Bloomberg Business Radio out of Boston.
Yeah, man. So I was just finishing up lunch here in the office, and I was walking, doing my normal thing where I get distracted between four other things. And my phone rings, I pick it up, and it's a guy named Joe Shortsleeve. He says, "Hey, this is Joe Shortsleeve calling you from Bloomberg Business Radio in Boston. How you doing? Is this Nick Phelps?" And I said, "It is." I was like, "Hey, Joe, nice to meet you. What can I do for you?" He's like, "Well, I read your story, and then I watched your interview on WBZ, and we'd love to have you on the air on Bloomberg Business Radio to talk about your business and your model, and we'd love to learn about what's working, what's not, and how it's different. We'd love to have you on the air." And we kind of went back and forth about that for a second about, oh, okay, cool. What kind of show is it? And, what kind of stuff would we cover? Okay, that sounds great. And then I asked the rookie question of all rookie questions, because people reach out to you when you're a small business, right? They want to get you in magazines, they want to get you in other things, and you have to pay for it. They're like, "Oh, we want to do this great article about you. It only costs $1,500 for the editorial, and we run it for these, you can do it for these many releases, etc." And so I'm used to those calls, and I didn't even think that this was something completely different. And I said, "Oh, okay. I just want to ask, is this a paid kind of a spot? Like, how does this work? Is it like a sponsorship sort of thing?" And he goes, "Is this, am I the first one to call you after your news story about appearing in other outlets?" And I was like, "You are." He's like, "I can tell." He's like, "Little word to the wise, don't ask that question again." And I was, "Okay, point taken." He's like, "No." He's like, we only do guests that we reach out to. We don't take any paid segments. We do paid advertising, but we do no paid spots. We'd just love to have you on and learn about your business. And by the way, I don't think I'll be the last one to reach out to you to talk about this. based on what we saw on WBZ. And I said, okay, great. And this was on a Friday. This was last Friday. And he says, great. How does an 8-minute spot on Monday live on the air, 3:30 sound to you? I was like, yep, looks good. Let's do it. And I got a confirmation email. A producer emailed me back right after that, confirming me. And then next thing I know, it was 3:30 on Monday. And what they do is, I don't know if anyone's ever been on a radio show, but I never have. And what's interesting is they call you up at your start time, and they, it's some guy that's in, one of their producers or one of their, production assistants gives you a call, and he says, hey, we're about to, are you ready for live on the air? Joe's going to be ready for you in just a minute. And you say, yep. And then they put you on hold, and you hear the broadcast as their hold music. So you can hear what they're doing, and you can hear them finish up the traffic and the weather, and then lead into, and today we have Nick Phelps with us, owner of Dr. Nick's Amazing Man Stuff. And then you hear a click, and he's like, hey, Nick, how's it going? And you just start talking, and you're live on the airwaves, FM, AM, XM, online broadcast, all simulcast all at once. There's a 30-second delay for standards and practices for bleeps, but that's about it, which they strongly discourage needing to use at the beginning of the phone call.
Yeah. So we do have the first minute of it up on Instagram and some likely future content. The news story, we have a straight up link. If you guys need a link, just either email Dr. Nick's customer service at drnicks.com or reach out on Instagram. Nick, do you know of any locations that they have a link to listen to the radio segment?
I have an email out to them that I sent out this morning asking if we could, if there's a recorded version of it, or if we could get a recording of the segment and then be able to just put it on the website, or throw it up. We could even throw it up as a YouTube video with audio only or something like that. Or, I don't know how we want to get it out there, but
yeah,
I basically asked them, one, is it available? And two, what are the rules for me being allowed to use it? I've learned over the years that, just because somebody gives you something doesn't mean that you're allowed to talk about it, or just because someone asks you a question doesn't mean you're allowed to talk about it. We've done and gotten a little trouble for.
We got stories in the future, guys.
We'll let that one cool off a little bit, and then
let it breathe.
We have some good ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we got what is it? We got like a 12-month statute of limitations on that discussion. Maybe I don't know.
But actually, legally nothing. We could share every word.
Legally
right
nothing.
Now. Yeah.
We just threats and hard, arm twisting and things like that from people who are bigger than you are.
Yep, it's gonna be a good story one day, and worth every bit of it for that story.
It is.
But with the experience, this was a business radio, so this was more so about the business side of things.
It was.
And it really struck me how little these men knew about any kind of not only beard care, but skin care, hair care, cosmetics. They were shocked at the term beard butter. And then the part that really resonated with me, they really don't understand any of this, and that's okay. That's totally fine. Was Nick got off the call. They just kind of abruptly hung up on him and then moved on with the conversation. And the guy goes, before he left, he said, how much is your beard butter? And Nick said, $25 for 4 ounces. And they're like, oh, okay. And then the call ends and the guy goes, yeah, I just looked up real quickly and I found a 4-ounce beard butter for $12. So they must be doing something right. And it's like, I know likely what kind of beard butter that was. Water as the first ingredient, tons of garbage in there, horrible silicones, all these products you can find. Yep, you can find it at the store. And I'm like, I can't believe he just said that, because these aren't even the same two products. It's not even the same two worlds. But again, that's okay. That's like
someone. That's like someone getting on the air to talk about why the handmade G550 in Austria is like a really battle-proven, Mercedes SUV, and it goes for $250,000. And getting off the air, and the guy going, I just found a 4-door RAV4 on here for $34,000. I don't know what they're doing right, but it must be something. Yeah. Right. So, but no, you know what though? That's fine. That just proves we need to do. That just means that the market that feels to us to have a lot of options and to be very saturated, that just proves how immature this market as a whole is and how much growth potential we have. Right? Yeah. Look at all the people out there that don't even know these products exist, much less know which one they're going to pick. They don't even know the category is there.
Right.
Which to me is just like, I love that he did that, because it just shows that we have a whole market segment that's even yet to be touched.
Right. When you think about so many other industries, it's just intrinsically known that it's going to cost more for quality. You want a better car, you're going to pay for it. You want a better microphone, you got to pay for it. All this stuff is known, but for him, he was flabbergasted that it was twice the price. And it was like 4 ounces for $12. Like, that has to be unbelievably, I mean, just break it down, unbelievably cheap stuff to be able to make any kind of money. And so that just kind of resonated with me and was really interesting on having these new worlds open that I don't have any experience with. And it was fun. It was cool to hear. You represented very well. The news was amazing. The radio was amazing. And it's kind of just getting started. And speaking of getting started, this is actually just getting to be ended. We are actually over time already.
No idea how. I looked down 5 minutes ago and saw that it was like 1:56. I'm like,
yeah,
what the heck? Where'd that go?
Yep. So with that said, guys, next week we have a really awesome stream. There is going to be a new scent that's going to be released. There are going to be giveaways on the stream. Thank you guys for being here. We had between 50 and 60 people, and no giveaways, nothing crazy. Just you guys hanging out in the middle of the day. That means the world to Dr. Nick. It means the world to me. So for what I want to end with is thank you. And then I want to kick it over to Nick with the final words.
Oh, man, it's just a big, gigantic thank you. If I could hug everyone in this chat right now, I would. I thank you so much for the support last night. Thank you for the turnout. Thank you for all the things you said. I mean, I couldn't go to sleep last night, and it wasn't because of orders. I can promise you that. It was because of words.
Yep.
I literally was pegged at 11 trying to go to sleep last night, and it had zero anything to do with dollars. It literally had to do with the things that you guys said about us in that chat. It's going to go down in history as just one of the most humbling moments of my entire freaking life. And so I without getting mushy and watery eyed here, I literally just, I have no words. I appreciate you. Thank you. We will keep doing what we're doing that brought you guys here, and we will never abandon what made you feel like how you felt and shared with everybody else last night. I promise. I mean, we will never, ever turn a corner that goes against anything with why you guys are here.
And that has been offered already and turned down, just so you guys know. It
has. And I think about this group right here, and those are the things that keep me honest. So keep keeping me honest, guys. And we will keep doing what you have come to love about us. And again, just from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much.
Absolutely, guys. You are all amazing. Viking included, everybody. Keep being great. We're here for you guys. Reach out anytime you need anything. And man, I appreciate it. Thank you so
Viking,
much.
Shoot us a note when things like this happen, man. Just get it out there. Throw a chat.
Yep, absolutely. All right, guys. Appreciate you. We will see you next week, 1 p.m.